So the inaugural meeting of the Applied Machine Learning Weekly group, which is great. Good stuff. And so welcome again, looking through the agenda. Welcome again, Alexander, to GitLab, and hello to everybody else who will be helping, including Michal and Taylor, who is not on today, and others. So we have a team page that's linked in the agenda, which is good stuff. The first epic, which we started talking a little bit yesterday with the infrastructure team, which was a great discussion with them. We'll really get started on it after Alexander completes, onboarding. We want to make sure we give you the time, Alexander, to do it, and you've only been doing that for a week and a half, and it takes at least 2 weeks. So definitely don't feel the pressure to start working on it in earnest until after you're primarily done with onboarding. On that, I think you had some technical questions, that we need to answer, that you started discussing yesterday, Alexander. And you're going to create an issue for those, so we can maybe track it transparently in an issue, some of those things?
Yeah, we'll do that.
Cool. Anything you want to discuss today to bounce off the team, or do you want to handle that async? Whatever you prefer is fine. Do you want to, Alexander, do you want to discuss any of those today via Zoom, or do you want to wait and we do it async later? Either way is fine.
Doesn't matter. There are a lot of questions to discuss. So, for instance, the main question for me is how to replace some of the components. And I think Mon, she watched our video yesterday, so she proposed some things. Maybe one of the ideas is to use Google Data Flow to replace Azure Data Factory and potentially Hive. So,
and that was the one that particularly for the proof of concept concerned me, is because it's Azure, the ADF is Azure specific, and we're not going to be running it in Azure. So what was this other one called? The Google equivalent of ADF? Do you have the name again, Alexander, or a link? Maybe you can post in the agenda.
Yes.
So where is better to send the link in agenda?
In the agenda.
Yeah.
It's a good place to paste it in.
So here's the link.
Data flow. Okay, I'll put it in. I'll put it in item number 2.
Oh, okay,
so one thing as we think about is our proof of concept is to implement it unreviewed, basically as is, as much as we can, which we know we won't be able to do that, but because we're moving it to GCP from Azure. Milestone 2 is about integrating with the product for .com customers, not for self-hosted customers. When we talk about self-hosted customers, running machine ML workflows is very intensive. So we may make decisions but if we want it to be able to run on self-hosted customers, we want to keep that in mind when we make decisions. And there's this whole discussion of other ways of doing things. So I don't know, Taylor, if you have any thoughts on, is it okay for us to make assumptions that we won't be installing all these components for self-hosted customers and may have an alternate solution, or should we be keeping in mind the self-hosted customers as we come up with their .com solution? There's pros and cons of both approaches, but curious about your thoughts at this point.
Yeah, so I mean, we're in pretty uncharted territory here. I think keep in mind that when we talk about self-hosted customers, they're running self-hosted, or they're running their own runners. And so one thought is maybe this is just a special runner type that they need to be able to configure to and make available to power this. The other is that generally self-hosted customers are running in air gaps. So thinking about what it would look like, or if it's even possible to run this kind of technology in an air gap. I'm personally not against having unreview as a cloud option, where if you want that enabled, you've got to connect to our cloud. We're moving in that direction with some of the larger changes that we're making with our licensing sync, as well as a few other projects that are happening. So I think keep in mind how self-hosted works, but I don't have any like firm answers or requirements in terms of what we have to support or not with self-hosted.
Great. So, and the idea there in that kind of self-hosted mode would be we extract the data on the self-hosted instance. And then if customers want us to do this, then we send it up to our cloud with the customer's configuration and permission, run the ML there, and then take the results and send it back to the self-hosted. So I guess any components we'd need to do the extraction would need to run on self-hosted and be appropriate for that. But everything else it'd be okay to be in the cloud, perhaps. So it's a good way to think about it. And it's a much smaller scope challenge for us to support self-hosted potentially in this kind of mode. Cool. So also welcome Mihao to the team. Temporarily transitioning in mid-June, maybe permanently. We're going to make that decision. We've got a transition issue later. So Mihao, you're going to start on this team 50% in about 2 weeks, then for about a month, and then 100% for about a month, and then we'll make the decision. You and I both on is this something you like more than what you were doing previously, or less? And if so, if you like it less, go back to the other team, and if not, stay on this team permanently. So again, welcome to the team, and we're looking forward to leveraging your background in ML as well.
All right, thanks. I did write some questions in the agenda, so I'd like to vocalize them. Neo4j went out of the window. Alexander reminded me that we no longer depend on the Neo4j, so that's not a problem. I've been wondering, since you explicitly mentioned that we use MongoDB in our review, did you consider using a JSON-B column in Postgres? This would mean essentially less work for our infrastructure department, especially when it comes to omnibus installations. So we wouldn't have to ship MongoDB to our customers if we decide to integrate it in an omnibus installation. And that should solve the problem of Mongo. Like, maybe not a problem, but this is not a problem. This is additional moving components. So this is something we have to consider carefully. I am not sure what would be the expected load of the database when it comes to inserting documents, because if I recall correctly, Postgres should scale fairly well unless you're trying to insert millions of documents per second, which doesn't seem to be the case here, but I'd like to hear your opinion on that. So that's my question for now.
So I think that it's possible to use. No problem. Right now, Unreview uses MongoDB only for two things. The first one is to store merge requests. I mean, all the information for the merge request that is pre-processed before by Hive and Azure Data Factory. And the second thing is to store some analytical reports for instance, how many merge requests has been open, closed per month, and things like that. So I think it's possible to use Postgres JSON-B column to store everything like that. So maybe we don't need to store any information about merge requests later in some future milestones.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. There was one thing that I wanted to mention, but of course I didn't write it down, so I forgot what was it. Give me a second, maybe I can recall it.
Cool, that helps me understand this better as well. We've got the other components. So there's ADF. Looks like we have a good solution for that with Google Data Flow. We can use the built-in features from Postgres for document storage instead of Mongo. And I think the other two are Hive and
Kafka.
And Kafka. What the needs are there. And I will say is that actually Kafka or a queuing system is something we'd actually like to have as part of the GitLab product. And that actually may be worth integrating and making it part of the product as well, because we need it often in GitLab, part of the product uses database tables to implement queues, and that works, but it's suboptimal at scale, surely. So we may, if we had that available, it may not just be our team that would use it, but other teams as well. But we'll see. And again, for milestone 1, the only thing we need to replace is ADF because it's not, it's an Azure thing versus a GCP thing. For milestone 2, where we actually integrate into the product, we can replace other things. So, that's not a in cement plan, but that's at least the direction it looks to be going.
Yeah, I think that for the first milestone, is the critical step is to replace ADF.
Makes sense. The Taylor, you didn't get to vocalize your comment just yet.
Yeah, so if y'all haven't, Mon has a lot of extensive knowledge in this area. She's got a lot of experience with GCP, with Dataflow, with BigQuery. So as we're looking to migrate away from Azure to GCP, I think she could be a very powerful resource. She also has a lot of experience training ML models as well. So once we actually start getting into the guts of the model, she'll absolutely be a valuable resource for us. Her background is very extensive in various types of machine learning, including NPL or NLP. That's also my background. So when we start doing any processing of issues or labels or things in the future, happy to help and explore that. So yeah, she's based in Australia, so time zones are always a little interesting. We're all, I think, spread out all over the place, so finding times for people is going to be difficult, but she might join these meetings at some point too.
Yeah, thanks for the heads up, Taylor. Yeah, I've talked to Mon about a number of things related to this in the past, and she's been an awesome resource. Very, very knowledgeable. Hi, Mon, if you're watching the recording. It sounds like hi, Mom, which is not what I'm saying, although hi, Mom, too. Cool. Yeah, and I think Alex, you're planning to, as part of onboarding, you were planning to do a coffee chat with Mon already. And I don't know, Mihao, if you talked with Mon in the past, but if you haven't, she's a good person to catch up with. Knowing the time zone challenge between Poland and Australia, it doesn't make that easy.
Next week.
I have some, let's say, experiences with scheduling calls with Thiago, which is always which is kind of challenging since I'm a very, very bad at waking up in the mornings.
Understood. Cool. That's all we have on the agenda. Anything else we want to discuss as a group? All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Great evening. Cheers.
Bye. Cheers.